Tim Hall, our Director of Athletics at SIUE, joins me now. And Tim, you are now at your third institution as an athletic director, and you've been in college athletics for some time. I can't imagine that you have encountered a situation like this. This has got to be pretty unique.
Joe, first off, thanks for having me. It's great to have an opportunity to be able to talk with you and the rest of the Cougar Nation. But yeah, I've been in this industry my whole career, and what we're going through right now, not really only in intercollegiate athletics, but in our world is certainly unprecedented. And as everybody knows, not only is the world conducting business in a different manner, but so is intercollegiate athletics. And I think as we come out of this, there's going to be some changes to the way intercollegiate athletics operates. And my guess is some of them might not be so subtle. But yeah, unprecedented for sure.
I have been impressed with everybody, and it starts with everyone at SIUE, from Chancellor Randy Pembroke all the way down, the communication and how fast everybody has pivoted, because we didn't have a lot of warning, we didn't have a lot of preparation, and I feel like everybody's kind of made that turn pretty quick.
They have, and one of the things I do want to say, if you could put a clinic on in terms of how to handle a situation or a national disaster, really, a pandemic, the way our institutional leadership has handled this would be, in my opinion, the clinic on how to do this. And so from the chancellor, his cabinet members, Jeff Waple, Rich Walker, Bill Winter, Denise Cobb, and others, they have worked unstintingly and with great enthusiasm to have at the core and at the center, which is always the case, the best interest of the students that attend SIUE and also the safety, welfare, and concern of the faculty and the staff. And so, you use the word pivot, and I won't say it was on a dime, but it was through a lot of hard work and effort that those individuals put into really making this transition to really doing everything through technology, primarily the learning being distance learning. They've made it their priority for sure, and I think you can see it's proved dividends in how things are progressing in as normal a situation as they can, based on what we're going through.
And I think that you can pass that down to your staff, because it's been the same with the administration of SIUE athletics, whether it's Jason Coomer or Jackie DeClue or Katie Zing. They have all had to do the same thing.
No question. What we've wanted to do is really follow and model what the more broad institution is doing, is care and compassion and concern for our kids. And you, as well as others, have heard me say that when I make leadership decisions, I remind myself rather of a statement, and then I ask myself a question. And the statement is, everybody is somebody's son or daughter. And so then the question you ask yourself is, what would I want if that were my child? Or if I don't have children, what would I want for somebody who is near and dear to my heart? And that is treating those individuals with respect, honor, dignity, and civility. And so, we've really approached this as an athletics department leadership team as, what would we want for the people who are most near and dear to us? And we are an institutional family, and we want all of our people, our staff, all of our staff, through our coaches and our student athletes, to be in the best possible position they can be in when we're going through this, national pandemic, and try to find a way to serve them as best we can, because that's really why we're here.
What has been your message to your head coaches and the student athletes that you've had a chance to visit with?
I'm trying to contact all of our head coaches and staff members, and I've broken them up and have a list, and I try to get to 5 or 6 staff members and or coaches a day, and really my message has been one that probably people are tired of hearing me say, but it's two that I think are really true. And the first is, I've learned a long time ago that, number one, there's never immediate closure with anything. And two, because of number one, we have to be comfortable with ambiguity. And, I'll give you an example. The NCAA initially came out and said there was going to be no recruiting through a certain date in April. And then they came out yesterday and said now there's going to be no recruiting of any kind up and through May 31st. And so as coaches, we're really hoping that they would have the opportunity to utilize, the end of April and into May to bring potential recruits to campus and interact to hopefully sign some really good student athletes. Now that was pushed back till maybe even June. And so there's an example of there's no immediate closure. I mean, when they thought they were going to be able to turn and do an about face and start recruiting, May 8th, 9th, or 10th, that was pushed to May 31st. And so there is a longer time period where we have to be comfortable in this state of ambiguity. And so because of that, because there's no immediate closure, and because we have to be comfortable with the ambiguity, I think it's important for us to continually communicate with each other and reach out and have conversations and ask questions like what happens if X happens, or what happens if X doesn't happen but Y happens, and do a lot of that situational type of strategic planning, because I think then when some of these various holds on the work that we do get lifted, we'll be in a better position to aggressively move forward.
I know that you have been in contact with Ohio Valley Conference members, from presidents to athletic directors to, Beth DeBush, the commissioner, and other people there. What kind of guidance or what kind of help has that been, just to have those fellow conference members there to kind of speak with and go through this with?
One of the things I'll say too, and that's a great question, Joe, is we're also really fortunate to be in a league that has a lot of like-minded, similar-minded institutions from a leadership perspective. And so, there hasn't been an outlier at all when we're talking about what's in the best interests of our young people and our coaches. We're able to get to decisions pretty quick, the right decision. When other leagues were talking about in the modified countable hour rules that were put forward by the NCAA, we were all saying, no, we're not going to have any physical type of interaction as well, because it's hard to do physical training through distance learning or distance education. Well, we were one of the first that were out to say, we're not going to do that. And I think most subsequent to that have come on board to say, in your countable hours, you can do Zoom type of sessions, you can do film breakdown, you can look at various types of leadership videos or what have you, but no actual activity. And we came to that decision pretty quick because we knew what was in the best interest of the kids was to keep them safe and healthy. So the league has really been an anchor for us, and Beth and her staff have been great and done a really good job of organizing us in the various situations that we need to look at and address in the most appropriate manner.
SIUE Director of Athletics Tim Hall with us here as we continue with our isolation conversations. And Tim, the thing that I think the public, looks at and has talked about and has debated is this extra year of eligibility, which the NCAA has said has kind of given some flexibility that conferences and institutions are going to be able to institute this. But what people probably don't understand is it's not just as easy as saying, okay, you've got another year.
Yeah, for sure. It's not that easy, and first and foremost, I think they made the right decision. Again, if you're going to go back to what I said earlier, is, what would you want if it were your child or somebody who you care deeply about? And if what they would want with that additional year, certainly you would want the body to try to find a way to make that happen for your young person. And so, yeah, it's a little bit more nuanced than people think. And so, certainly there's things that have to be considered, like roster sizes for equivalency sports, what aid is countable and what aid is not countable. So I think the NCAA, looking at this decision that they came to, were two parallel tracks. One was, what's the best way that we can serve our young people to give them a year back? And then also, running parallel, is how can we give the institutions the most flexibility in this situation based on this new normal, or this world we live in. And so an example of that would be, anybody who was in their last year of eligibility, they can come back and their aid will not count against the equivalency limit. So you'll see most programs will probably go to some level over their scholarship equivalency limit. They also put maximum flexibility to give the institution the opportunity to have a conversation with the prospective student athlete to say, well, we're going to award you the same aid that we awarded you, and here's why, or a reduced amount, and here's why, or even a conversation about maybe no aid. And so that's an example of the maximum flexibility to the institution. So, I think it was done in a manner to try to get to yes in the best possible way to serve both the student athletes who will be returning if they want to, and the institution, which now, as many of us have talked, there will be outlays of scholarship dollars, significant, six-figure scholarship dollars that weren't budgeted for. But, I think it speaks to our institution and our institution's leadership when we say, yes, we'll find a way, because that's another tangible example of how we serve our young people and our students. And it wasn't their fault that this was taken away from them. And so we want to the highest degree possible, hold them harmless.
I think that's obviously some good news, and it will be interesting to see, kind of how that plays out. Obviously, you personally, you are a father, you have a family, you have youngsters at home that are, we're already adapting to a new school this year,
We sure
and
are.
and now you're adapting to a new way of learning. How are things going at home for you and your family?
They're good. I'm checking stuff off the honeydew list right and left. So if I'm not on some type of Zoom call or a phone call talking with, staff or coaches, or on NCAA or OVC calls, I'm trying to check stuff off the list. As a matter of fact, after this, I'm going to go out and attempt to cut the grass here at the house for the first time. So, it's neat that the kids are able to do their schoolwork from home, and it's been nice to see our older ones who are in high school helping the younger ones who are in middle school with some of their schoolwork. And as an added bonus, our office in our basement also doubles as the game room. And so when mom said dad's going to be using that space, there's no video games until dad's done, which means you better get your homework done and your chores done. But one of the things, Joe, that I've said, I think, to you and then to other staff and coaches, is that we're in this business that I had an old boss of mine who used to use the phrase, and I'll preface by saying I really don't want anybody to subscribe to this, but I think it speaks to the work that we do. But he used to say, Tim, athletics is an industry where you work 20 and you sleep 4. And certainly I would not advise anybody to work 20 hours and sleep 4. But the message there is that in our industry, you don't wear a watch. And when you're serving young people and you have games on weekends and practices, and when you're responsible for these student athletes and your pseudo parents, you have to take phone calls at night and early in the morning and at all points in between. And so I think this is, if anything good has come out of this, I think it's given us an opportunity to stop and sort of reflect on the blessings that we have, and how fortunate we are to work at a place that cares about people, and to work with individuals, not only at the university, but most specifically in our athletic department, who really are, I think we are really like a family. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to this opportunity. And so, for me personally, to be able to, get engaged in high stakes pool tournaments with the kids and Beth, and we play in phase 10 tournaments and doing things, having meals. Our kids commented, we've had more family meals sitting around the table and actually talking than we have in a really long time, because of my busy schedule, and all 4 of our kids are involved in multiple activities, and you're just always on the go so much that it's been a little bit refreshing to take a step back and spend time and reflect on how fortunate and grateful we are, not only for our own families, our individual families, but also our work families as well.
Boy, I absolutely hear that, understand that, feel the same way. I have to put you on the spot just a tad bit. You always have a great piece of advice or a great line from dad. So I want to know, as you've talked to your dad during this whole, isolation, what's been a good piece of advice from dad?
We were talking the other day, and he said, Tim, just whatever you feel, whatever you believe, keep saying it. And I'll share a funny story. When we were in Kansas City and our kids were younger, and I think we only had three of the four at the time, and the oldest two were maybe third grade and second grade and kindergarten. My parents had visited, and we had gone to dinner, and we came home and we pulled into the garage, and when you walked in the man door, there was a mud room right off the garage. And so I started giving directives to the kids. I said, now put your shoes in the cubby, hang your coat up, put your book bag on that hook. And my dad looked at me and he said, do you do that all the time? And I said, well, yeah, why? And he said, you just gave a second grader and a kindergartner like 7 tasks to do. I said, okay. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, how often and to what degree do they do all of those? And I said, no, not very many. Maybe we get 1 or 2, and then Beth or I have to either pick the shoes up or put the book back. He said, let me give you a piece of advice. He says, if you continue to want to have nothing done, give them 7. If you want to at least get 1 or 2, only give them more. Don't give them any more than 3 tasks. And he said, and that sometimes in the harriedness of your work life, that can go not only for your kids, but for your employees too. And so what it taught me, really was a reminder of prioritization, that, if you really want to get things done, what are the most important? So if you want nothing done, give somebody 7. If you want 2 done, give them 3. And then he said, and then say it over and over. And when people are sick and tired of hearing you say it, they're just starting to get the message. And so I've found myself, Joe, having to say to people, and I know it's hard, it's even hard for me when you're talking about this sense of ambiguity, and whether it's our great coaches saying, well, when do you think we'll be able to do X? Or, if fall sports get suspended, what is that going to mean for? And we're just all in this state of not knowing. And I think, living in a world where you can get information so easy through technology, it's hard for us to not know. And so, and talking to Dad, most recently, he said, Tim, look, one of the best ways you can help your people is to alleviate their concerns is just keep listening to them and keep repeating and repeating what it is you really believe is going to help get them through.
Well, I appreciate the time today. I've appreciated all of our conversations that we've had that have not been on air, if you will. And you and I can catch up. We can do this again because we're going to have some time, I think.
Absolutely, we sure are.
Well, thank you again. Thanks for taking some time.
Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it. Take care.